This meeting is being recorded.
Sweet. All right. So, Stephen,
Yes.
Steve, here we are in the wonderful world of the digital pixel land. So we met back in Kelowna, BC, through Dan Martell's, through his elite coaching program. And then we were there for the Social Selling Summit to get to hear from his team and how they're doing all their incredible work on the social front. And it was really great to meet in person. And I just have loved getting to see your the signal that you've been sending out online and just sharing your journey. And my hope was you would share a little bit more here about what you're working on and how that's going. I know even in the last, I think that would have been October last year, early October. So October 2025. So much has changed, technologically in the last little bit, and really empowering more people to be able to build than were before. So what have you been up to? What are you working on? And how's that going?
I've been up to breaking everything. We kind of I feel like we did a little bit of that parabolic push. Started kind of in October actually of last year. And so we were really heavily trying to figure out how to both leverage our time as far as Dan's buyback ladder, getting admin covered, which we had, and then operations covered, and really bending our mind behind how do we grow this thing as fast as we possibly can and sort of obliterate bottlenecks along the way, so that when spring hits, like right now hits, we set ourselves with the biggest foundation possible because our business is so seasonal that when May hits, we can start seeing growth like we could only have imagined. Actually, I couldn't even imagine in January of last year. And so it's been kind of wild more recently with your conversation about technology, because I went pretty heavy into GPT initially, and we use that for coming up with some content on our back end stuff, some SOPs. We definitely used it and sometimes still use it for image generation, and take a picture of a unit and then put paint on the walls and different couches and stuff. But when I moved into Claude, it was really great because my background, part of what I did at the old company was build a database for them in the FileMaker environment. And so having that sort of understanding about how to structure a build, a dev and a prod, some of the things that translate from the old timey took forever to do it. It feels like forever now that I'm using this, and translate into Claude. It was a quick adoption, and it's been really cool. So we have a turnover app that all of our cleaners across all 4 markets use, taking photos, documentation, stock levels, stuff like that. And then we have an internal app that allows us to hand off between VAs and EAs as they're taking different shifts throughout the day, so they can know what's on fire, what's high priority, what's in the distance, and we just keep the brain centralized. So those all came, rapid development. What would have taken me 6 to 8 months in the past, 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
And you're in the short-term rental space, correct?
Yep.
And how many properties is it that you guys manage?
So we have 23 currently, and we'll have 24 by the end of May. And they're in geographically, only 10 are near us, 10 more are 7 hours away, and then one's in Florida, which we're on the west coast of the States, east coast of the States. So systems and communication matters big time, even before all the tech stuff, good systems with cleaners, standards, being very candid about what we expect, and moving through cleaners rapidly have been a big deal to allow us to manage so many so quickly. And that's what started to break a little bit. We're hitting our threshold.
And where is it breaking? Is it breaking at the input level for them? Like they're using different devices and they're trying to interface, or it's not kind of updating across the board with different aspects of it? Or
no, we did run into some weird stuff because the cleaning staff all have their own internal version of whatever software they're using. Usually it's like Turno or some sort of other platforms I've never even heard of for cleaning companies. So asking them to adopt something new, we pushed it too far and got too complicated, which I think is easy to do in development. Thank goodness we stripped it back to simplicity. we had a level 10 meeting, Hannah and Nicole and I, and we're like, what is the purpose of this? Because I was turning into an IT support and an
Mm-hmm.
app developer. I'm not trying to be IT support and app development. I'm trying to develop something that brings efficiency and move to the next thing. So
Mm-hmm.
what's actually breaking for us is Hannah, our executive assistant, 2 months ago was handling all communications. And so Nicole and I were able to stay laser focused on our family and on growing the business. So Hannah's pregnant. And so she's looking to pull back and I want to make sure that everybody that works with us has an opportunity to live the life they want to live. And that's part of how she wants to live, right? Not glued to her phone and getting ready for the
Mm-hmm.
baby. So we're working on backfilling what Hannah has provided with VAs. And we've got one. I need two more. And Nicole and I have then taken the burden back on of weekend communications. And it's been a step backwards for sure. The counsel that I've gotten from Dan AI, speaking of technology, is that it's not a step backward. It's just signal that where we need to focus our efforts next. So yeah, I think there's kind of two answers in there, but
Mm-hmm. I think there was a meme. No, it wasn't a meme. You had shared some video about being up all night working with Claude.
Claudenesia.
Claudenesia, yeah. And I thought that was interesting, the timing of it, because, I certainly noticed that there was when you get into something to learn it, like, we're realizing we just rebuilt our site and redialed it over like December into January and really retooled the focus of what we were focused on. And we sort of put the dart in the middle, in the center of the dartboard, as being helping brands to show up in AI search, right? Because if you can be the brand that is recommended, then you're doing all this other stuff under the surface really well. So you're clear with the signal you're sending out. You're consistent. All the AI systems have consensus. It's trustworthy in terms of where it's cited, et cetera. So we're like, all right, that's the center. But when we started to see how much was moving on the cloud front, it's like, all right, well, let's get in here. Let's see how these tools can work and whatever. And then really quickly you realize, So it's interesting because that's where, and also it helps to have deep work, to be uninterrupted, especially if you have Claude's working on a task here, or Claude Code is working on a task with this, to have, you got a big screen, you got multiple windows up. This is working on this part, you're deep in that for a bit. All right, that's busy. You jump over this and it's working, and to context switch back and forth is helpful, but, doing it without distraction is important.
I had to slow myself down. I was doing too much. I'd have two chats going, running two different concepts while I was building, and I found myself ready for bed at like 7 every night because I was just overtaxing this. So I had to actually reshape the way I approached development, which was one platform, one app, one solution to a completed point, and stop doing the multiple things. So I just developed a habit of picking up Claude. If I had an idea that jumped in my brain, hey, record this for later. Let's title this properly. This is what I'm thinking. And then I'd put it back down
Mm-hmm.
because I was burning my attention out. Because switching context like that multiple times in one session over the course of like 8 hours of, who knows, hundreds of context switch, brutal.
Mm-hmm.
I need to ask you something though. You just intrigued me. It's something I've been circling as well, especially in the short-term rental area. I continually hear about SEO versus agentic search. I feel like what you just said may put you guys ahead of the curve. What are you seeing when it comes to the necessity of retooling in mind that people may be searching for your services or your client services via agentic search versus traditional SEO?
Yeah, I would look at it almost like, so search engine optimization is optimizing for a ranking, right? So a lot of the time, someone will look and say, hey, if we get enough backlinks or backlinks to a really trustworthy site, so like and sometimes people are, paying for good PR or with reputable agencies to be featured in that way. And that lends a certain amount of credibility, which equates to trust. And it might push you higher in terms of how you're ranking for things. But if people aren't scrolling search results for things, if they're wanting answers, then you want to optimize for the answer, not just a high ranking score on like the Olympic board of like where you sit. So, anyone who said that SEO is dead just doesn't understand what's going on. I look at it a little bit more like a really strong SEO strategy becomes like supercharges or gets activated with an intelligent AEO, GEO, like answer engine or generative engine optimization. Like those, a strong SEO foundation you're going to lean on it and leverage it, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to surface in an answer. I would look at it a little bit like there's three main things that I would say. First is, and they're all C's, which is just convenient and it just helps you remember it. One is just to be really clear, right? To make sure that you know clearly what it is you're talking about. And if a brand has gone through iterations of product market fit where they're trying to figure out their message or they're trying a few angles, and if that still lives in your social media content, in your blog posts, in articles, in things that's covered, and it's connected to your brand or even product, it's going to send like a confusing message, because contrary to a human scrolling results and seeing maybe what's most recent on your website or most recent in your socials, they're naturally only going to be able to hold a little bit of information and they're not going to go deep. Whereas the AI systems are constantly being updated, and their understanding is they're indexing all of this information. And so if you have multiple confusing signals that are coming, it is going to have a lower confidence to then say, hey, this is probably the answer that you're looking for from this company. So to have like a really clear message and then have it be consistent, so it's not inconsistent, right? And then the third is like that it's citable or like trustworthy. And that's where some of the SEO plays in, where if you look and say, hey, if you have a really good backlink strategy, if you have content that's like indexing on other people's platforms or pages, and if it's showing up in that sense, then all of those are going to be sending like a much stronger message. But we do some interesting things where I would say I would think of it like at a foundational level, like to kind of, and we do kind of like a signal check that you can do through 79dev.com, where you come and you show like, what's your website, who are your top competitors, what's your main social that you're most active on. And then you can go and look and see what competitors are showing up in AI search. So if someone's searching for a specific topic, seeing, did you guys surface in that answer, excuse me, or did a competitor, what percentage of the time? And you can start to see how people are showing up in ChatGPT and see the exact searches that people are making. So the fact that you have that information, you can reverse engineer answers for that. So really, one of the paradigm shifts for me that we've now over the last few months have followed is we are primarily producing content for the machine layer, not for the human layer. And there's a lot of really good agencies that are producing content that follows trending topics to really flow and surf the algorithm. And I think that's really great. There are other agencies that are doing really incredible, highly memorable, emotionally charged campaigns, often leveraging really great Gen AI, tools that makes an impact for humans, very memorable. That's not what we're doing. We're producing content at the machine layer that if a human being never sees it, it doesn't matter.
Wow.
Because we want to look and say, primarily brands we're looking to work with are ones that are solving a meaningful problem in the world. So someone is going to Chat or Claude or whatever, and they're picking up their phone and they're saying, hey, my dog has just been like just nuts lately. We're at the park and it's all over the place. And my wife's really, frustrated because this is, he wasn't doing this and now it's not a puppy anymore. I need to get some lessons. Is it too late? Plus it's a Doberman, are there any ones in this area? So we're like, you need a dog trainer or lessons. You need it to be geographically, close by. You need someone who specializes in big dogs, and you need, you're also, so the nature of that prompt has probably like 45 words in it, whereas before in search, dog, trainer near me
Yeah.
is different. So, but if you notice, let's say that prompt exists in the future, some point it hasn't happened yet. But if we're looking and we're seeing, hey, I noticed that people are having this issue, they're retroactively trying to figure out if they can train their dogs. We should make some content for this brand about retroactively training your dog. Hey, my dog's this old. Hey, I noticed that we've noticed a few people that have been talking about how a loved one has been expressing concern about how their dog's been behaving. We should make content about that. But we're not making content as like a carousel slider for Instagram that we want to push to the forefront. We're making content that can live quietly in some aspect of our site, that lives as an article or as a blog post that answers in detail what people are looking for.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, if you have the other foundational aspects, right? Like your signal message is clear, you train dogs, in this area at every stage of where they're at, no matter if they're aggressive or they're big dogs or whatever, like you train dogs and you do this in these different ways. If it's really clear signal and it's not confusing, you didn't, also train bunny rabbits or something, and you're like, or switching to whatever. If that's really clear, and then you're then producing that content, then it gets kind of fun, because now the creative tactics for content become things like, who could we be talking to and doing collaborative like articles, that might relate to it. So who's our ideal customer? Who would that be? And I don't know offhand. I don't have a dog, or we don't have like a client in that space, so I wouldn't know offhand. But I know we're doing some interesting stuff with architects right now, and architects and interior designers are a really great ICP, like ideal customer, because they are right at the hub of decision makers. They're right at the hub. They're between investors. They're between like actual builders. They're on the forefront of like decision makers that are impacting design decisions for lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And so, in one instance with one client, we realized, hey, we need to be, creating this stronger strategy where we're answering these questions at the machine layer. But we should really be inviting some of these architects and interior designers that he has this around him, which are like highly creative, highly intelligent, very connected, and talk about things like building materials, and talk about tariffs, and talk about design, and talk about living spaces, talk about the future of like, wherever they sit. Some are for children, some are for like in schools, some are for, so let's have them talk about those things. But from our perspective, we want to facilitate that conversation at the article section or at like a recorded conversation. And we want to structure some of that article in a way that we know people are going to be, or at least these models will be searching, because people are searching for these things. And if we do that, then over time you're positioning to be like the answer that goes, actually,
Yeah, and so specifically pinpointed. It's so I just can't imagine. I'd love to be a fly on the wall as you guys are discussing this stuff. But to think through, a lot of searches are 40, 50, 60 words, rambling
Mm-hmm.
questions to get something solved versus, and I've noticed this for myself, I get irritated trying to come up with a pinpoint Google search now. I'm like, no, I want to get context. I want to sort of flow through this problem live and then get a response. I love that. That's cool that you pinpointed something that felt invisible to me until about 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, it's interesting that, like, I don't know if you use like Super Whisper or Whisper Flow or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. So the moment someone starts to realize that all you have to do is like at a push of the button, you can just be kind of Jarvis talking to your computer. There's no going back after that.
Bad.
Yeah.
I can't even type. I'm like, it reminds me, I tell my wife, I'm like, it's like being on the Enterprise. and you just say, "Hey, computer," and you just talk, and
Mm-hmm.
it makes you a cup of tea. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
it's crazy. I find, I don't know if you've noticed this in yourself, but I get super frustrated if I have to type. Like,
Yeah.
now, I don't know. It's weird. It's like this weird chemical brain thing. I don't know what's happening. Dopamine's getting registered the wrong way because now I can't hit my two buttons and talk. I don't know what it is.
Yeah. Well, it's a means to an end, right? This letters typing is a means to an end of getting the intention from my mind through to
Mm-hmm.
the agent, the tool, etc. The funny thing is, to me, part of the paradigm shift for me is I feel like I would say the majority of content that exists online is typing, is like in some similar way. Like most of, okay, so there's that famous quote that's like attributed to Henry Ford to say, hey, if I asked the people what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse.
Mm-hmm.
And that paradigm, like, man, I really, that thing probably, hearing that quote at the same time of going through and building with Claude has been at the forefront of my mind, because so many times I'm looking and saying, am I trying to build a faster horse with what I'm trying to build right now?
Yeah.
And how many times do you see people, these things popping up saying, hey, here's a prompt where you can create 3 months worth of content in 30 minutes. And I'm like, man, that's just a faster horse. Do you know why it's a faster horse? Is because most of that information that you're trying to put out there to interrupt people in their life, have it surfaced, you're hoping it's going to find the right person at the right time, and then it's going to register for them, and they're somehow going to move closer in the funnel of whatever it is that you're about. It could be entertainment if that's your service or product or whatever. But to me, especially if you're solving like a meaningful problem that someone would seek out, you want to surface at the answer point. That's the combustion engine to me. Or like maybe you've heard the phrase, like, you don't put new wine into an old wineskin. You know, the idea that you have an old wineskin, they would pour the unfermented like grape juice, put the yeast in it, and then it would expand the whole wineskin. You can't use it a second time. If you put new wine into an old wineskin, it's going to burst and you're going to lose both of those. And I feel like that's kind of what's happening. Is some people are using these new incredible tools, but they're doing it trying to now pour it into an old model. And it's just, you see it in people's feeds and you're like, great, now you have way more of what I don't want anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would suggest, I don't even think people realize it. Most people don't want to be spending so much time on their phone or their device. Most people need more fresh air, more time with loved ones. They need more time sweating and exercising or resting or meditating or being at peace or reconnecting with others. More of that, not siloed deeper and deeper into, optimized, scrolling, and a lot of what are you optimizing your scrolling for, but to learn things that really at the time you need it are a prompt away.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't have that exhaustion of like, just having over-indexed on something so much, then actually at the time when you came to solve that problem, you would be fresh and probably a lot more receptive to take the instruction the first time and follow through.
Wow. It's very true. I think that's part of my own journey of stepping back. And I'm constantly asking both Claude and myself, what am I missing here? Basically in the same, it's not in the same words, but am I trying to build a faster horse? Or it's like, I'm trying to think of, like, if you have a pen and you have the opportunity to write on your phone, it'll translate into text instead of just either using your voice. It's like, oh, I know how to write, I'll just use this really expensive device that could have flown something to the moon 30 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to go ahead and just keep writing instead of taking advantage of what's available next. And that's a tough paradigm to break. Man, that's a tough one. I know Dan's always challenging us. He's like, yeah, you're having fun in Claude. Is it making you any money and buying back any time, or are you just having a good time?
Mm-hmm.
It's a similar spot.
Yeah. So do you feel like you would coach people in your space? Is that something that's on your vicinity? Like, for example, someone who's like you're a couple dozen units into it. for someone that's like, maybe they've got a couple units and they're kind of wondering, like, do
I
you feel
don't,
like that's something that you would do, or you're headed in that direction?
I'm doing it. I'm not charging for it. I don't, something in me says I don't want to be the STR guy. I don't want to be Mr. Airbnb that everybody comes to and asks me the 10,000 questions that I have to watch my coaches field all the time.
Mhm.
Drive me crazy. I'll lose my mind. I like moving. I don't want to rehash out how do you sign a lease with a landlord for the 50th time, you know? So part of that would be what I would accept in the standards for my program. Um, I'm also just really interested in dads, mostly dads, but moms too, that feel like the career they're in is it, but their soul is screaming for something else, and what the path can look like. Honestly, it's very similar to what Dan does. Um, I feel drawn in that same direction, and I'm doing it all the time. I just got off a call with another guy. Just a few frameworks, a few questions, some of the skills I've learned over the years that can really move people forward towards the dreams and goals they have for their life. And jogging employed people out of the mindset that they've missed it. And that's where I was. I'm 40. I missed it. I should have done all this stuff. I wanted to be a millionaire since I was 18. It's not for the money. I just want to be with my family. I don't want bills to be a stress. And I want to be able to take friends and family on fun things. You know, it's like, it's very base level. And I want to encourage people that exist, but I always war against people aren't going to change unless they want to. Again, I'm very selective. I'm not trying to pour into somebody. I don't care how much money you paid me. If you're not going to do the work, forget it. So it's a long-winded answer to say I am coaching people, and we've had more and more people reaching out for Airbnb. I have a friend in Tunisia. She wants to get a couple over there, and so she's been working with the arbitrage. We've been coaching her. Just met a couple in Boise. I've got people from Elite pushing me, people that have, I literally just got a text before we called. Hey, I've got a guy from Elite. Hey, I've got this property in South Carolina. Can you give me any tips? So I just don't know if I want to be the STR guy, but I do want to coach eventually. So the trick is
It's,
finding that.
it seems like most of those things that you listed would already be answerable in a model, even if you trained like a model based on your own understanding, like a hybrid of you and like some parameters for it to be able to search out information. You know, like if you've kind of approved a certain jurisdiction of guidance, you know, like how to, whether dealing with a landlord or other things, if you kind of had your, maybe your own AI or just like a consulting tool that you kind of were able to use with that. The other thing you might consider, we built agents that we use regularly. One is a voice agent. And so it's structured to understand and intelligently ask the questions that we use in a discovery process and onboarding process. And we take it through different calls. And then that gets pulled off because you don't synthesize it in real time because there would be lag. You take that off, you take the transcript, and it gets handed over to a strategy agent. And then that system prompt is like updated based on a number of things, like basically any really insightful like learnings or principles that we've used that we would like, we just integrate it and keep updating that. So it pulls the voice transcript, takes it and then synthesizes it and uses a markdown file to be able to then map to a pre-designed HTML design that's like, that looks really great. And it like follows a really clear structure. And from there, like for example, for the clarity report, it goes across 3 categories: audience, brand, and content. And that answers the 5 W's: who, what, when, where, why, for all of them. And it's like a decision forcing lens, so that if you have been asked this and there's low confidence in the way you've answered it, you answered it vaguely or whatever, it would just like on the slider, it would be like, hey, for this one page, it's answering that one thing, you know, when it comes to like who you serve or whatever, or why it matters, or when it is that they need that they realize they need what you have, that it could be like low confidence, and give the reasons why. But the reason why I say that is that you could potentially, instead of having people do it, you could potentially have it that like they, at some interval, are able to call that number and have your voice agent ask them questions. Hey, what are you here for? Is it a current rental that you have? Is it a property that you're considering? Okay, let's go through the questions. Take that transcript, hand it right over to have a tool that will synthesize it and give feedback, and then just give it the feedback right back to it.
That feels like next level. My dogs are losing it right now. Can you hear
Uh,
them?
I can now, but not before. We can hop off though. I know we were just gonna have a quick chat. So,
No, it's just they're barking at the. There's a
oh,
person
it's
who comes
actually
and
it's not
cleans
that
the
loud
yard.
to me. So
Okay,
yeah,
cool. It's that is just full disclosure. That's super intimidating to me, just because I haven't stepped into that realm of my own agents yet. But it's also it would save me a lot of time. It's that age old thing of like I really like to help people, and I would love to make as many people as wealthy as possible. And this is a method in which I know how to do it. But is that a type of thing that you charge for? Is it a funnel? Like, and then
to help.
I'm not even into execution yet because I have no idea how to execute that. I just ask a lot, probably. But
Yeah. Well, I guess it's not like we're not going around setting up agents for others specifically, but if it's something that you wanted to set up, we could either help you do it, like kind of work with you through that process. We could possibly do it, but I think you're proficient enough that even just giving you some parameters and showing you how we did it, like I think even, screen recording some of that and doing it would potentially be helpful for that.
I guess is a couple prompts in 3 hours in front of Claude with
Ah,
pointers from you is going to get me where I need to go. I mean, I was completely, what's the word? Intimidated by Claude Code and Claude Co-work
mhm.
just 4 weeks ago, and now, it doesn't take long. You just got to get over that initial whatever it is that we have as humans when we don't know a thing.
Yeah. Yeah, true. Cool.
Yeah, it's. I don't, this is the other thing that Dan AI keeps asking me is what do you need to say no to this week?
Hmm.
And I wonder because as we've taken back communications, it's really inhibited our deep work time, which I'll solve that. But then it's like, do I continue advising these Airbnb people? I mean, I'm speaking in 2 months on scaling
Hmm.
at an Airbnb conference, but I'm speaking because I love scaling. I'm not speaking because it's Airbnb personally. Um, so yeah, that's a good question. I'm glad you asked the question. I've been asking DNA. I've been asking people around me, like, when is it time to coach? Because I like the model. I like what you can do in people's lives, and I like the dang dogs are driving me so crazy.
Yeah.
The
Would
margin,
you? Yeah. Did you say margin?
yeah,
Okay.
because it's like I could have a blast,
Hmm.
and then you're making good margin, and you're having a blast. Like I love going to coffee with somebody and just nailing them. It's so easy. You just ask them what their goal is, and they say a thing, and then it's like, is that doable? We're like, yeah, it's doable. I go, great. Double the goal and do it in half the time, and their brains explode. And then they're finally asking the right question. And then they finally move towards the thing they've always wanted to. And I just have a blast. It's so fun.
Hmm.
But that's not
Cool.
Airbnb. It's
Yeah.
something totally different.
Well, it seems maybe this is a bit of theory, but I feel like AI has technical like advancement, like it is very good at executing, right? So when the like gray eye, the gray intelligence, the gray matter, when you as a human being see that there's something that you really want to do, and there's that like spark, if you will, like, hey, that spark is here, then you go to execute. That execution layer is like really next level with AI. But where I feel like it doesn't work is it doesn't have the if it doesn't have the spark, it's just more potentiality. It's like just the ether. It's the digital realm of possibilities. Like how many times does somebody haphazardly asking, "Hey, how do I get in shape?" or "How do I do whatever?" but the spark wasn't there. It gives you a perfect plan. It doesn't do anything. So, but I think that the spark can be lit through other people. In fact, I think that's one of the main reasons why to coach with someone is when that coach on the other side like says something and the person's like, "Oh, yeah, I could do that." And then when they move on from there, in the back of their mind, it's like there's been some kind of like conception or something. There's been some kind of there's some gestation. There's something that is like the circuit has connected in agreement or something to make it believe that it's possible.
Yeah.
And then that person's there. So I feel like, coaching, I think kind of that's one aspect of where maybe one increasing aspect of where it's really important, and maybe less so now than ever before, is the how. The how you got to go, figure it out.
And the how is easier than ever with the right question. Yeah, I like that toggle. I think it's part of the reason I really want to focus on high performing dads specifically that think that they don't, I mean, they're just crushing their industry, but they don't believe they can do it on their own. I'd love to be that toggle switch or the flipper for them that allows them to flip their own switch. That'd be fun. But I'm a big freak about sequencing, and I want to make sure that my focus stays where it needs to be dialed in. And we hit the $1 million run rate last month. We did 87,000 in revenue, and so I want to keep the run rate growing until we're actually solidified to making $1 million a year, and then I'll reconsider where to buy back my time, where to focus the next round. So coaching will be, I think it's just going to be on the back burner, and I'll just continue wherever my phone went. I'll just continue to offer what I can online to people. Maybe it'll resonate, maybe it won't. I'll get a lot of practice, and then hopefully I'll lay a foundation out there someday to be, something I can charge for. Because I have friends who call me, and I'll go, "That was literally $1 million piece of advice just now," and they'll go, "I know it was," and I go, "I'll send you the bill," and they laugh, and we laugh. And, yeah.
Well, why don't you consider spinning up a page, right? Put some rates on it and just put a page up. And then that way, for new, even if it's just new contacts, new people that come into your world, when there's a conversation, or when there's, you can just, be like, "Hey, I can send it to you," or whatever. "Hey, I do this." And then feel it out, see how you want to do it. But then it's real in the sense that there's a page, and you don't have to have that conversation with people, necessarily. You can just, they can look and they can make a decision. But the other thing I would say is maybe pick a day of the week to go live. And when you do that, be like, "Hey, I'm going live." And just to let people know, if you want to chat, to come on, I just want to do this to, like, how can I help? What are you going through? Either have you considered short-term rentals? Are you building business? Are you balancing life with kids? Like, let's chat. And then see, and if they don't come on, then just, add value and just talk with, maybe you have a couple things in advance of, like, "Hey, these are keys that I wish I knew when I was younger," and just talk, send that signal out of what you're wanting that signal to be, and then let the people find you.
Yeah, interesting. Funny, limiting beliefs come up immediately. I quarantine my limiting beliefs, but I like to say them out loud because it can help. It's taken me a year plus to go from 100 followers to like 850. It's slow growth. And so it's like, I kind of know what I have to offer in a one-on-one setting. And I know what I have to offer is great, but cat videos is what get people to click and follow. So yeah, I still a year of practice, and I still feel like I don't know what I'm doing in socials. It's crazy. I love the live though, because if I could have somebody just come on and say, "This is my goal," and just run them through the framework, even if it's one person, that could be a good time.
Well, the other thing to do is to just get on like this and record a conversation, or go live on like LinkedIn, or you could do a couple platforms. You can, go live across YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram, or whatever, if you want, and just have conversations. And maybe if you pull that focus into the exact area that you want to, give people the opportunity to kind of talk about what they're working on, what they're building, depending on, how that is. That may be another way to be creating like surface space, in a public sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, more eyeballs. Here's
Cool.
something interesting for you. This doesn't have to be part of the session or not. You're one of the few. Did we meet in October? I thought it was.
I think so.
Here. I thought it was like April.
Oh, maybe it was. Yeah, maybe it was.
I hiked with Dan in March, and then I came back pretty quickly because they did one in October. I don't think I went to that one. Anyway, beside the point. you're uniquely on the sideline of what I've had to sort of develop in myself. Um, so I just mostly just want to say thank you for being around. There were some voice messages sent back and forth between the two of us that were impactful, very impactful for me during that time frame. And if anybody says, "What did you have to go through those first 6 months?" I'd say it was awful, and I had to grow a lot. But I had some cool people in my corner, and you're always one that comes to mind.
Thanks, dude. Yeah, I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, let's wrap this up. Where can you just like spell it out nice and plain where where you can be found online?
Well, for me to be found, it's at scale.with.stephen, Stephen. And that's where a lot of business and Airbnb and life and family and all, they all converge on my page there. So that's a great spot to find me. And then if you're coming to parts of Idaho or Sarasota, Florida, then you can go to havenbydesignstays.com, and that's where all of our rentals are sitting.
Very cool.